As good as it sounds.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll probably have some people kind of dwindle in as we get started, so let's go ahead and get going. We had 17 signed up, but I understand there's an accident out there. Okay. But I want to take this opportunity to introduce a wonderful new member to our team, Michelle Geiger.
Hello, everyone.
She's going to be another full-time dietitian with us. She will be based out of Evendale for the most part. She comes with quite a bit of experience as a dietitian. I'll let her share that with you in just a couple of minutes here. We are so thrilled to have her because, as you guys know, we are growing in leaps and bounds. Dr. Curry is going to be bringing on another doc. We have another RN on board and another full-time RD here with us, and we are just expanding at all the satellite facilities. It's very exciting. So it's an exciting time to be with the Metabolic Weight Loss Center. So we're so glad that you guys are here as patients and that we can be here. So with that said, Michelle, you want to go ahead and tell a bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Michelle Geiger, and I'm the newest addition to the team. I come from Mercy Hospital in Fairfield. I've worked there for 10 years, inpatient dietitian. I'm also a certified diabetes educator. So in the hospital, I worked with kind of two very opposite ends of the spectrum. I worked in critical care, and then I worked with patients that had diabetes, mainly patients who were newly diagnosed with diabetes or needed a change in their diet because their medication was changing, something along those lines. So I have knowledge of insulin and diabetes medications and hope to put that into play, especially with people who are cutting back significantly on their calorie intake. Oftentimes they significantly need to change their medications, and I can talk to them about that and talk to them about exercise and things that are appropriate for someone with diabetes. So I am from Westchester, Ohio. So I've lived here since 1979, and I have 3 boys and a husband too. 3 boys. 2 of them are in college, and my eldest son is a junior in high school. So I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you and hoping that I can help you in any way.
One thing we're really excited about as well is that she does have a strong exercise background as well. So we're hoping that maybe in the very near future on the support group we can do some type of exercise support group and bring some, something we've really lacked here, and so we're looking forward to doing that support group. Erin will be here any minute. We're waiting for her to come join us so that you have your full dietitian panel from Evendale to support you. So at this point, what we want to do is be able to open up the floor to all of you and allow you to ask us questions and hope that we can answer them. And if for some reason we can't, we will find a way to answer them or find out who can. But again, we want to make sure that we get you set up for success as to the best of our ability. So the floor is yours. Who would like to start? Okay.
2-part. First of all, I was diagnosed with a severe B12 CLX, fairly developed, and it's genetic, not really the same. Probably didn't help any, but I can now take regular 12 supplement. Fine now. But the first part is, should I be considering adjusting the band booster in the event that contributing, should leave it as long as everything's a treatment plan? Secondarily, can you folks recommend a physician that would help me monitor that as well as other vitamin deficiencies? I'm also low on vitamin D, again, not related to, but I'm interested in finding a physician that specializes in vitamin abnormalities and don't know endocrinologist or what profession actually does that.
Possibly an endocrinologist if it's based on that.
Yeah, I would say, if it's something, and obviously what we want to really be careful with is that we don't get anybody's personal diagnosis and things like that. So we will give general guidelines back as far as anything that relates to you can kind of apply it. One is you can talk to an endocrinologist. They deal a lot with hormones and different types of diseases in that regard, and they can look at certain deficiencies as it may be related to that and be able to monitor that and be able to treat that more efficiently. Obviously, if it's food related, the types of food you're eating, as dietitians, we obviously can give you great resources that way with different handouts to help you maximize your intake in that regard. As far as adjusting your band any further, I'm not sure that's necessary unless you feel like from a nutrient standpoint you're really restricting very, greatly as far as what you're consuming.
I don't think so.
Okay, then probably that would be something to take into consideration is probably supplementation, especially if it's not dietary related and it truly is related to something completely unrelated. Then I would say that going to see an endocrinologist and maybe even talking to your personal care physician about a referral. They might have even a better suggestion in that regard. Who's next? Now the floor is yours.
Sign in. Go ahead, sign in. You can take a raffle ticket that's sitting there.
And you all know there are no silly questions. There are no
No.
dumb questions. I can guarantee you if you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it too.
I'm probably going to raise a very trivial question in most of your minds, but I had my gastric sleeve surgery on May 13th last year,
Okay.
and have been really, really wanting a glass of wine.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if any of you have had experience with re-entering the world of wine after your surgery, after any gastric surgeries, and how you dealt with it, how you felt. Did it knock you off your feet or what? But I really want that glass of wine.
Yes, you do. Okay, good.
Does anybody want to respond to that?
Any personal things you guys have done?
I find alcohol feels really hot and burning when I drink it, and it hits me fast and hard, and then it goes away really fast. So I don't enjoy it because if I'm drinking it for the taste, it's kind of uncomfortable because it feels really hot to me. And if I'm drinking it for the feeling, it just goes away so fast, and I can't drink it either at the same time. So you're always drinking on an empty stomach if you're being compliant. So, I haven't enjoyed it since surgery. It's just, but I've read a lot online of people transferring like food addictions to alcohol. So that was a little scary for me too. Like I wonder if that'll be my new thing, but not interested anymore. And I enjoyed it before. That's my.
And you had the sleep?
Yeah.
The one thing I will tell you is that when reintroducing alcohol after having a bariatric surgery, the key thing is if you get the sleeve surgery, you have reduced the size of the stomach. And alcohol is immediately absorbed across the stomach mucosa, which means it's going to be immediately absorbed and used for energy before anything else. So because there's less surface area for the alcohol to be absorbed, you're going to feel it really quick. Okay? Now, alcohol, too, the other part of that is alcohol is an appetite stimulant. So it can actually cause increased hunger in small amounts. Now, in large amounts, it can actually take away, but we don't drink large amounts, right? So that's one thing to take into consideration as well. But because you aren't eating and drinking at the same time, you are on an empty stomach, and you do feel it really quick. And from a safety standpoint, if you are going to drink as a bariatric patient with your band sleeve or bypass, always give your keys to somebody else because you don't know how it's going to affect you.
And try very small amounts.
And very small amounts sipping, yes. Very small. Yeah.
See how you do.
And usually a red wine.
Yes.
Dry red or dry wine is what I
Yeah.
usually say.
Dry wines that have less sugar in them are good options.
And for the longest time, if you're wondering how to calculate that, because we're all journaling, right? And I always tell patients, this is a very general statement. And anytime that you can get the real count for it, do that. But they used to say that alcohol metabolized more similarly to like a fat, but it actually metabolizes more like a sugar. So in the end, really what we can do is calculate it more like a sugar, like a carbohydrate. So in general, I usually tell patients one drink, like a 4-ounce glass of wine, or one mixed drink if it's not made with a sugar drink. Typically would count as like 15 grams of carbs in general. But anytime you can get the real count, utilize that. Use the label, go online, look up the wine on its website, and get that information. That's really the best way to get that information.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Helps a lot.
There you go. Good. All right. More questions? You guys are going to make us do all the talking tonight. I know you all have questions. Don't be shy. We're on TV.
any additional studies on it in terms of black band, and impact on diabetes? Like I've heard that bariatric surgery, sleeves and whatnot, can result in conversion from being diabetic. But is that also the case in black band? Or can it be?
You know, as far as the recent studies, I honestly can't speak on that one. What I can do is I'll be happy to take that information to Dr. Curry and Dr. Pitt and see if they have any recent studies that have come across. I honestly can't say that I have seen them personally. I can tell you from observation, when diet protocols are followed by any bariatric patient, we do see a great reduction in blood sugar. Many patients tend to have their blood sugar medications reduced quite a bit, even BAM patients. And in some cases, as they continue to get the weight down and exercise, they come off their medication. Now, obviously, that's not everybody. And it's not every sleep patient, it's not every bypass patient. But truly, a lot of it in most cases, a lot of it in my observation seems to be with diet compliance. That seems to be the greatest effect on blood sugars. Do you guys agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, there are times where metabolic situations are going to come into play, medical conditions, severity of diabetes, how long they've been diabetic, all those things can kind of come into play. And again, the best person to probably talk to about that would be the physicians, Dr. Curry and Dr. Pitt. They could probably give us the most recent and updated information.
Have any of you noticed that yourselves and what you've gone through? You would raise your hand.
I'm not on my diabetes, but I had my surgery almost 6 months ago. It was probably almost 3 months ago when I went back to my family doctor for my check, and I was 4 point something. She just took me on my medicine and cholesterol, and I go back in a couple weeks for a stick, at her office. But it's great on good.
I got taken completely off of my diabetic medication. I was taking Onglyza, the pill. And about 4 months into my surgery, the sleeve, my A1C had gone from 7 down to 4.5. And there was no need. It was I was in that category that my doc called living with diabetes but under control. So I still, I guess, have diabetes, but it's under good control. And with the exercise and the diet, I've continued to do that.
Mm-hmm. Now we have a mixture of soon-to-be surgical patients as well as post-surgical patients. Does anybody have do any of you have any questions as far as those that haven't had surgery yet have any questions that wonder what to expect? Anything that they have curiosity about that they can ask surgical patients that might be helpful? Or those
Words of wisdom from the.
Yeah, the words of wisdom. There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Anybody want to share that? Huh? Everything? Is that what you said? How about those that have had the surgery? Do you have any concerns coming with the summer coming? Any challenges ahead of you that you haven't faced yet, or something that you find?
I'm having a hard time getting out of my head with this. I'm having to change all of my habits, right? And I knew that, and I prepared for that. But when it, I feel like I'm talking myself into making bad decisions and stuff like that. Instead of a protein, I'll get a carb or something like that. And it's almost like I want to see if I can mess around with it. I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I doing this to myself?
You're challenging yourself.
Yeah.
I would call that a challenge. Anybody else experience that?
It's human.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
You're testing the waters.
sometimes it's overwhelming everything. So I try to just take one thing and master that first. Then that kind of gave me the encouragement to myself. Okay, I'm going to make sure I all my water.
Yeah.
That helps.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not perfect all the time, but that I was overwhelmed at everything I had to do all at once.
Yeah. And that makes sense because I'll make a list of things to do. Right now I'm making a list. I'm always making lists, and
it would be like, remember to get your water and remember to get your protein like this. And I was trying to take it all at once, and I would feel like I would only come a little bit on each one of those things. Instead of always getting my protein, I was getting a little bit more water, a little bit more protein, stuff like that. So that makes sense to kind of tackle things differently or individually.
Great idea.
I think just not beating yourself up about it. You know, that's a lot of it. For me, it was just like, okay, you know, I wasn't exactly perfect today, but you know what's first.
I'm still having trouble getting my fluids in. They, I just can't get them. This, I think, is like 18 ounces. There's some days I don't even get this all down. Some days I get this and maybe a half of an ounce, so like 30 ounces. But I've never been one to drink a lot of water, and this is like that Crystal Light. Water just makes me nauseated. You know, I had a real problem with nausea.
I think getting fluids in is probably one of the number one complaints, especially in the first 6 months. I think that is a challenge for probably 90% of all patients. I would say that there's a great time that you can really get into a habit of drinking. And when is that? 3 hours before. 3 hours before bed, because there really ultimately should be no eating during that time. You want, no matter what surgery you've had, you really want that stomach to be empty when you lay flat in bed at night. So the best time to make that up is if you don't get it during the day, is use that 3 hours, maximize that 3 hours. Yes, you're going to get up and urinate. Now, I realize that's going to happen, but you know what? At least you're keeping those kidneys flushed and getting plenty of fluids. And if you guys get dehydrated, what happens to your weight loss? It stops or slows down, doesn't it? Yep, you need to have that water present or fluid present in order to break that fat down. It doesn't burn fat, but it helps break it down. So you need to have that water there so the body can utilize that fat for energy. So if you get dehydrated, you get run down, you don't lose weight efficiently, you're not metabolizing efficiently, you get nauseated, feel really crappy. So getting that fluid in is so important. So sitting there in front of the TV instead of grabbing popcorn, grabbing chips, or grab that fluid, some type of fluid, not alcohol. But sitting there, and drinking some fluid to really, the more that you do it, the more habit it becomes. And sometimes we don't get that sensation of thirst and we think we shouldn't be drinking, but thirst is really the first sign of dehydration. So you definitely want to make sure that is something that you're pushing. But
you mentioned Crystal Light. Crystal Light, it doesn't have any fizz to it, does it?
Yeah.
But there are waters, flavored waters that do have a fizz.
The ice brand.
Yeah.
Right. Is there any harm in that for a surgical patient?
Just mainly sugar-free is what we recommend. So you're not getting all the liquid calories from these products. But yeah, the ice brand's really popular, I would say.
And they have a little bit of fizz, the ice brand does.
Now, a lot of the waters aren't like a pop. They're more like they don't have the same type of carbonation, in my opinion. I just tried these as a trial. And this is actually just a slight bit of carbonation. It's like a little bit of a bubble. It's not like a true carbonation type thing. And some patients do not tolerate carbonation well. We do see that. Sometimes the gas bubbles and the pressure, especially early on, would not be recommended. So, but having, something down the road, probably 6 months.
And it's not as strong flavored. Like
Right.
that one we tried together. And a lot of people report they feel like everything tastes a lot sweeter than you remember. So that can kind of take the edge off of that sweetness. So it's not as strong flavored.
If you said your belly should be empty, like 3 hours before bed, is it okay to drink a protein shake before?
That's a good question. I do tell patients that they feel like, because you can count part of that as fluid. If you really did not get enough protein in during the day and you are starting to feel run down, a fluid calorie of some sort, such as a protein shake, would be appropriate.
Okay.
Obviously, drinking it slowly, and try to do it within, give yourself at least an hour before you go to bed to have it, digest.
Okay.
Because it is going to go through quicker than anything solid, obviously. It's still optimal to try to get your, the meals in before that 3 hours, if possible.
I sleep with an elevated bed, like the adjustable bed, so that is
Yeah.
and
Even doing sugar-free popsicles, like the ones that are just a single stick, that's a quarter cup of fluid,
Fudgesicles too.
and it gets them. You know, if you get the munches, or you can even take like your
at night too.
protein shakes. You
It's like
can
a dessert.
freeze them a little bit, eat them kind of like an icy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get them slushy.
If you want to take one to work, like put it in the freezer now, and then in the morning take it out, and if you have it at lunch, you just shake it up. It's like a icy
Slushy.
Yeah, it's really good.
You can even put them in like popsicle molds and make your own protein fudgesicles. But yeah, we've done that before with the fruit drinks.
Does everybody really take 20 to 30 minutes to eat every meal? Just yes.
Yeah.
Do you
Show of
really?
hands. How many people take 20 minutes to eat?
I eat so fast, I'm like full at like the 2-minute mark. So there's like no eating past that amount of time because I'm trying to figure out how quickly I'm to slow it down and stuff. But I never get to 20 minutes because I'd be sick as a dog if I ate for 20 minutes.
You all know why we want to eat slowly?
What that does, we get full.
She's got it over there.
So your brain knows you're full, or your body tells your brain you're full?
Well, there's several reasons. One is, yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the studies out there, they do say that it takes about 20 minutes for those receptors to get to the brain to tell you it's full. There's those studies. But the other part is that when you look at digestion, there's a few things that happen. You know, you've got the contraction that occurs, you've got saliva and mucus that are being, built up. And if you eat really fast, you're not allowing some of those digestive processes to take hold, then you can run into some intolerances. And that can lead to productive burping or vomiting, and then the next thing you know, then you can't eat anything, right? Anybody ever experienced that? So slowing down is really important. Taking that, you can really tell yourself, take that first bite and wait a couple minutes, because what happens is you start producing saliva and mucus, and I know part of this is biology, but I think it's important, because that's what, when you think about the concept of these surgeries and how they are meant to work to help you with reducing and slowing down, helping the digestive process, getting the right kind of foods in, all of those behaviors that we teach with that all have to do with the success of the tool to help you get to your weight loss goals. So if you think about taking that first bite of food, you're going to produce saliva to help moisten it, then you're going to produce a mucus that hits the esophagus, and then you're also going to get a contraction. So all that has to work together for that first bite. It gets into your sleeve or gets into your band or top of the bypass, and then all of a sudden you got some moisture going on, you got the peristalsis, and you get a really nice first bite, correct? Then you can take another bite and things just really smooth, flowy with small bites. If you eat fast, you're putting too much in there into a very small space. Things are moving too quick, peristalsis gets all, tighten them, what happens? All right, so eating slowly, taking small bites allows you the time to get the necessary nutrients in a timely manner. And in most cases, you're going to start feeling full within 20 to 30 minutes. And then that very first feeling of fullness, where do you feel full? Here or here? Usually here. Yeah, usually it's a really comfortable pressure that hits about right here. So when you get that, you're done. I mean, that means like, okay, time to push the food away, wait 20, 30 minutes for your fluids, and you're going to feel pretty good. And that's going to allow for and that's going to keep your pouches nice and small without having to worry about dilation or slippage of the band or having any type of reflux. It's really going to help with that quite a bit. It doesn't fully eliminate it for everybody sometimes because swelling can occur and things like that, but in most cases, when you practice those rules that we're teaching, you're going to minimize the negative side effects. And that's what's really important. And then that's why the slowing down. You're going to get full really quick at 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's really no place to put it.
And it's not full comfortable. It's full sick.
Because what that discomfort comes from that squeezing of peristalsis. And it's squeezing, trying to push that food through a very small opening, and it can't. There's no place for it to go. So really take that first bite and just wait a couple minutes. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, we were.
Food gets cold.
That's the number one complaint from patients. It's cold.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Eat
cold.
this much food for 20 minutes, you're eating cold.
Yeah, I know.
Have you ever seen those little mug warmers that they have? If you put your little plate or your little bowl on a mug warmer, it's since it says little food, it'll keep it warm. Like if it was like a normal person's size, it's not strong enough, but
Right.
it's what we eat. It'll keep your soup or your whatever, like even like solid food is gonna be warm enough. But yeah, if you get cute little bowls and plates, they'll fit on the little mug warmer. And
I've got one myself.
it's nice. I
Really helps a lot.
I never found it to be strong enough to keep my coffee hot, but it keeps the food hot.
Okay, great. Do they still make the, I don't know, I haven't had a baby in a long time, but they have those bowls you can plug in, and they have like 3 spaces in them.
Oh, that's true.
Do you know what I'm
haven't
talking
seen-
about?
Yes.
I mean, okay, so I'm old. So
I have
I haven't seen one.
You haven't seen one?
That's a good
There's
idea
that young
too.
one, so-
Garage sale hunt.
Because I remember when,
Yeah, I do.
yeah, when we used to babysit, they had these bowls, they were heated, and we put a place for vegetables and meat and for the babies.
We don't need it here at my house.
You know, sometimes what you can find to use can be kind of creative, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Great
cold
idea.
food's not fun. I agree. Cold food's, and that is one of the problems with eating slowly.
Unless you're eating chicken salad or belly chicken or
Yeah. And sometimes when you reheat it, what happens? It gets dried out. Yeah. What you could do is, you know, if you know what your portion is that you typically tolerate well, only portion out half of it, and then go back and get the other half. That's the other thing you can do, and wait, keep it warm, and then get the other half. That's something you could do. I mean, there's different things you can try, but that's a balance. Enjoy our meal.
Eat your protein soups or not soups.
There you go.
Just try to keep those chunkier because if it's a real brothy soup, it's kind of like eating and drinking where it might filter through more quickly. So a heartier and high protein eating foods.
That's holy.
And did you say 6 months when you should, your hair loss should slow down?
I would say in general, what we see, and you guys agree with me, that typically between 6 and 9 months is when we typically see a slowing of hair loss and start seeing the baby hairs come in.
And they will come back?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I've never seen a patient go bald. I've just seen thinning.
If you're past that mark, is there a slimmer chance that it would start? Like if you're past 6 to 9 months, can you expect you've gotten past the time where you might?
Well, I think any time that you are reducing protein intake to the point where there's not enough to excrete, because all hair is excreted protein. So if all the protein you're eating is going to nutrition, there's not a whole lot for it to excrete, right? The concept is to really try to keep the protein high so that the body has something. But you know, the body's pretty miraculous. It has the ability to adapt. So that's one of the reasons by about 6 to 9 months you start seeing the hair growth again. So yeah, and biotin is one of those B vitamins that helps hair regrow, but it doesn't just grow on top of our head. Some facial hair kind of happen.
That?
Biotin. Yeah. It's one of those possible side effects that can occur.
It's true.
But yeah,
Didn't know that one.
you didn't.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, men usually don't care. They get that.
Well, anyway.
It's
I had a full head of hair a year ago. Now you're telling me it's going to grow back. Not.
I had a patient that this was like 3 or 4 years ago. He actually had natural balding. He came in with a wig on at 6 months after because we had support group about it too. And he came in 6 months later. We're back. It's really fun. So you guys get pretty creative. What other thoughts do you have? Any other concerns? Any other questions? Any other thoughts?
For patients who have GERD that it didn't resolve, post-surgery. Are there any dietary recommendations?
Oh, absolutely. Lots of things cause GERD. Certainly, caffeine would be one of them. Carbonation can. Some foods that kind of relax what we call the sphincter muscle, and that would be tomato products, orange juice, citrus. Those are the things that seem to irritate. Chocolate.
So if you're not eating any of that, you still have rampant GERD. What else can you do?
Make sure for sure that you are, after when you're not lying down after eating your meal, so you want to have at least 2 to 3 hours before you lay down. Okay, and kind of keep the gravity. Gravity's your friend. You want that to help with that movement and not cause the acid. I'd probably look at what you were eating in addition to that to see if that's a cause. It may not be dietary. It may be that you have high acid production. It might be that you have genetic GERD. But, it certainly could be related to, and this is something you've noticed after surgery you didn't have before.
Oh, no, I had it before. Yeah. It did not resolve post-surgery.
And they may be able to answer some things, because I know sometimes it's, it remains, and the GERD is different with the sleeve than it might be with the band, and I just haven't gotten the experience with that as much as you guys have.
Even some high-fat salad dressings can cause
very high-fat
reflux, like ranch. Like, some people are more sensitive than others.
And high-fat meat. Anything rich. Fat's another one of those things that kind of relaxes that muscle and causes some of that reflux up into the esophagus that causes that uncomfortableness.
Is it when you eat only, or pretty much
That's
all the time?
Yeah, it's just all the time. So I'm just probably.
When's your next office visit?
Yeah, I just wondered if there were dietary things. I'm not eating any of the things you mentioned,
Right.
so.
Right. No coffee,
No coffee, no wine.
no spicy foods, no tomato products, no orange juice.
I know, yeah. It's the only medication I'm left taking, so that was why I was just kind of like, I go on, I try not taking it, but yeah, within 3 days, it's like the sword, there's flames shooting out of my throat, so.
I mean, sometimes there's, gums, like especially minty gums, sometimes I think it can help patients, but there's other times on lists. Cinnamon oil and peppermint oil, spearmint oil in the past have been on lists for avoid with GERD. But I don't find too many people that seems to bother them. But is that something that you're, there you go.
Okay, never mind, move on.
And your fluid intake is good.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do well is fluid. Yeah. Like 16.
Just make sure you bring that up with your provider. That's a good. I think.
A question about travel. I'm almost 8 months now, and I've been in a stall for quite a while. I'm probably in the last 2 months have just started getting exercise faithfully 3 times a day. But I'm stuck. So I'm trying to figure out. I'm not gaining. I'll gain a couple, lose a couple. I'm doing that whole back and forth, which I do. Any suggestions, or there's been some stuff in recent about quick weight loss and how to grow your like you have to do more to keep your metabolism, but I'm also trying to the combination of things too. I don't know.
Plateaus are common, and they're going to happen because the body doesn't want to give up its fat source. It wants to save it. We have to kind of trick the body sometimes. I'm not saying this happened, but a lot of times what happens is we get what I call ritualistic eating. We get comfortable with a certain foods that we like, and we lose weight with it. So we eat that on a routine basis all the time. We have our set meals, the same foods, and all of a sudden, why did it stop? Why did my weight stop? I was doing great. I didn't change anything I was eating. I'm exercising 4 days a week. What's going on? We can hit these plateaus, right? Anybody ever been through that? Yes. Yep. So there are a couple of things you can try. There's looking at the overall metabolism. There are 2 things that change metabolism. One is exercise by increasing your muscle tone. Because the more muscle mass we have, the more we're going to have a higher caloric need, okay, and have a higher metabolism. The other one's medication. Those are two things that are going to change it. Yeah. I know. The types of foods we consume, obviously, sometimes we get really comfortable too. We not knowingly add in a few extra carbs. And I mean, I think, oh, it won't hurt this one day, it won't hurt the next day. Next thing you know, you look at the whole month, you really have added a few extra in. Yeah, I see some smiles going on here. We all know, right? So kind of taking a closer look at that and really seeing if maybe there isn't some hidden carbs going in addition to maybe doing the same exercise on a routine basis, maybe changing up the muscles, maybe change it's the length that we do it. But the one thing you want to be careful is don't change everything all at once, because if you did, which one really helped? So maybe take one thing and see if that made a difference, and then if it didn't, maybe try the food thing and see if that does. Or if you really do think you know where you can make a change, start with that. I can see that. But
Yeah, so we're comfortable with it.
yeah, it's called.
It's easy.
I kind of made up the term.
I call it repetitive eating.
Repetitive eating, ritualistic eating. It just means we get comfortable with eating the same thing. So the body again goes, okay, this is what she's going to give me, so I'm going to adapt to it, and then it learns. So we kind of have to constantly keep it shocked and say, I'm going to trick you today. You know, you're getting something different today.
Change your fruit, change your vegetable.
Yeah,
You know,
change your
something like
protein.
that, right.
Yeah. Just change
Right.
it up once in a while.
It makes a lot of sense. Mix it up. And
Mix it
it's
up.
been a long journey for me. I relate to what you're saying that you're time and ultimately end up breaking plateau and getting down. The ritualistic eating can absolutely do. The other thing I eventually realized that initially is that when you start working, it increases your hunger. So tend to eat more and you start exercising more. And I realized the amount of eating you're going to compensate and overwhelm you with exercise you're doing. So you may be sabotaging yourself by exercise. You have to be very careful at increasing your intake just because you're exercising.
I'm going to say something about exercise too. Exercise is very important, obviously. But what happens when we exercise? We also increase our muscle tone, and it will often do what to the scale? Increase the weight. That number on the scale is nothing but a symptom. This has come up a lot over the past 2 weeks, especially with patients. They really, with the change in weather, they're getting excited, they're going to the gym. You know, they're like, this is great, but they're coming in, they're freaked out because their weight has gone up and they don't understand it. This is a time when you really start changing up your exercise, start taking. Because what happens is you can lose fat weight, but you really can't. Even if you don't see the muscle, you're building the muscle tissue itself. And it's going to increase in weight. It's going to hold oxygen. It's going to hold some fluid. So it's going to weigh more in a smaller area. You're not necessarily going to see, you know, that going on with the muscle, but you're going to see it on the scale. So you're losing fat weight, but you're kind of changing composition. Does that make sense? So that's why you definitely want to do your inches. And make sure when you start a good exercise program, start that process.
Your clothes will fit better.
Yeah.
Yes. Know it.
And then that way, when you're looking at that number on the scale, which is a symptom, right? That's what it is. Because until you evaluate what goes into it, you can't really know what to do about it. All you see is a number, but we've evaluated ourselves by that for years. But we have to say, okay, what changes that? Exercise, food choices, medical conditions, medications, all those things have to be looked at to know how realistic is that number. So that when you're evaluating it, you're not criticizing yourself saying, I'm a failure, here I am gaining weight again, I'm exercising, I'm eating the right foods, my numbers don't look the same. And I can tell you, I myself over the past probably 6 to 8 months, my lowest weight was 164 at my very lowest weight, and I wore a size 12. I'm now at 174 and I wear a size 8'10". And that's all because of increased physical activity. So the number on the scale no longer is a panic attack for me. Really, truly, an indication of what's happening with me composition. So that's why I really want you guys to think about it that way. I see a lot of devastated faces during the day when patients come in, they're just like, I'm not exercising anymore. You want to exercise.
Makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. But changing it up once in a while, at the same time as looking at your meal pattern, is really important.
Not just cardiac, but weight training.
Right.
To exercise that build muscle calories.
Right.
Should we And obviously, I've heard a lot of people like lose, and then they just start gaining at the, or over half of sleep patients gain all back, or gain half of it back, or like at what point do we say we need to be really concerned and not go the opposite? I think I'm just, you know.
I think a lot of times is when indulgences, which I encourage patients, you have to treat yourself, but you can't bring it back into your routine. Because once you start eating usually those indulgent foods, the cravings escalate and your hunger escalates, and then you end up eating a little bit more of them. And that really throws a wrench in things. And then the mental part of it comes in, and we're in worst enemies, you know. So that kind of cycle is, I think, what can bring on some issues.
I'd say that usually we see that about 9 months. When people get really comfortable, it's like, oh, I'm losing weight, I think I can go ahead and have a little bit of this. And it's usually, and they come in for that 9-month appointment, that's usually when we see that. That's a comment, not all the time, but that's probably when we start seeing it. And then please come to your appointments. That's what anybody on YouTube watching this right now, please come into your appointments. Do not, we're never going to criticize you, ridicule you, make fun of you. We're here to help. And we know how hard weight loss is, so please, if you hit one of those points where you see you're going back up, or you feel like you're not doing well and you're too embarrassed to come in, that's ridiculous. We want you to come. That's when you need us. That's when you want to utilize the dietitians and the providers to give you the best education they can give you and get you back on track. None of us are perfect. None of us are, including this bariatric patient here. I am not perfect by far, but I do my best to, identify when it hits me and what do I need to do to get back on track and that sort of thing. So please utilize. Don't run from us. That's, patients will say, well, I didn't want to bother you. I'll tell you what bothers us, and I think I can speak for all of us up here. When you come in at 1 year because you didn't come see us for 2 years, and now your band slipped, or maybe you have your sleeve has a stitch, whatever, and had you come in earlier, it's not that you bothered us, we're worried for you at that point. We'd rather you come in with a slight weight gain so we can put systems in place to prevent any negative outcome. So please, 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 come see us. We love seeing you guys and helping you. We know how hard it is, right?
Mm-hmm. If you haven't been back in a while, for those of you who are listening virtually, then, please, you're always welcome to come back.
Come meet our new dietitian.
Yes.
So.
I have a question of macros and calories. So, I got one of these little electric shock things for my birthday that, basically every hour on the hour it zaps me and says, go for a walk, take me for a walk, let's go for a stroll, that type of thing. And so, it's all tied into the logging and do this. But I noticed that there's days when I'm perfect on macros, getting the protein, the right balance of, all of the carbs and everything else like that. But I look at the net calories, and it's really low based on exercise. Is there like a minimal caloric intake you should strive for, or does that just not matter?
I think that's individualized to the patient and where you are in your program too. I think the amount of exercise you're doing, I think, you start out at 500 calories, get up to 800 calories, get up to 1,000. But how those calories are distributed is depending upon the physical activity of the patient, the medical condition, and how well they're doing with the diet plan itself. Does that make sense? I think ultimately, as you get closer and closer to a goal, I think 1,200 calories is probably a good count to go by, with the one constant carbs. You guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
Protein is probably going to be the greatest variable as far as making. If you feel like you need to have more intake, I would increase your protein intake. The one thing that we look at last is going to be your fat intake, because fat and protein, the body still has to work to convert to a sugar. And that's what you want to see, is that's going to help with that metabolism side of it. On days you work out, you may need to have more caloric intake. And you might have to have a few extra carbs that day. So there's no real, I can give broad statements and recommendations. I don't think I can give exact for everybody to come and see us to see where you are. But I would not go below 800. Anywhere past, 3 to 6 months out, I think you go below 800 calories.
It's also about spacing.
Huh?
It's also about spacing. If you're going long periods of time between your meals, your metabolism is going to get a little stagnant, and you're not going to keep losing.
That's definitely spacing. meal plan. That's why, another reason why, when you come in and be as open and honest as you are, where you with the programs, give you the best recommendations individually. And sometimes I know you guys sit out in the lobby and y'all talk, well, how did you lose this? And you lost that? And you ate that much? And well, everybody has their own plan. And that's one thing that we do commit to, is that we individualize the program to everybody to the best of our ability. We have general guidelines, but we listen to everything that's going on with you. So the more open and honest you are, we can give very detailed recommendations based off of what your goals are, where you are. That's really important. So, does that answer your question? Okay, good. Yeah. You don't look like you just come. No. It's so quiet tonight. You can see you're gun shy, aren't you? Everybody's gun shy.
What about back getting that in your, adding that to your life? Right.
Magnesium in it.
Should have magnesium in it. But
So it would be enough. We don't need extra.
I don't think so, unless there's something that you've been told by a doctor that you might have a deficiency or there's a problem.
I think sometimes it can regulate your bowels, but that's not something we usually shoot for right out of the gate. So we
Unless
don't
you're having
usually
problems.
dose it.
And actually, when you increase protein intake, you automatically increase magnesium.
Okay.
So, yeah. Hopefully that doesn't take you. Yeah. If you're concerned about it, talk about it.
Yeah, if we eat every 3 or 4 hours, how will it go? Do you guys have suggestions, quantities and types of food? Because if not, it's gonna, I bring a sliced up pepper to work. Is that a good? I'm failing on all levels. But I'm not. I don't always bring in a chicken breast or something like that. So is there a good snack that you want to give your body every 3 or 4 hours?
What if you added a little cheese to the pepper? Peppers are a good choice. I actually saw you get those little mini peppers. They come in the bag in the produce section. You just cut the top off and get the seeds out, and then you cut up a string cheese in small chunks and you shove it inside of it.
Oh, what is it?
Really
And you
good.
can even put it in the broiler. And it's kind of not really a mozzarella stick, but
Yeah, it's like a stuffed pepper.
reaching, but still, yeah.
That's a good idea.
And look at vegetables with peanut butter too, or using something like hummus. I mean, hummus has some carbohydrate in it, but it's a good thing to kind of put on. And it's it's often prepared when you buy it, right? So it's
Right.
kind of convenient that way. Unfortunately, the Sabre hummus has little pretzels it has with it.
Right.
But in a nice little container that you could bring with you, and then add some maybe carrots or celery or something like that. They give you that protein. It's protein that's really, in the snacks and meals that we really want you to emphasize to fill you up and get your nutrition.
It takes longer to digest, so keep it cool.
Yes,
Right.
that's true too.
And the peppers have more fiber, so
Right.
that's going to add to it's going to keep you full longer too, in combo with the protein.
I agree if you pair that almond butter, pair that carb with the stuff, it spikes much. Is that right?
It maintains your blood sugars better.
The protein slows down the absorption of sugar.
So I've heard carbs.
Tell me more about what you've heard about carb cycling, because sometimes it goes and has different names over the years, and it could be similar. So
on one day you would really limit the carbs having, and then the other day it's not like you're going out and eating pasta, but you would eat more fruits or eat more complex carbs. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of for a couple of days you do one and then restrict it so you can add the complex. So it's kind of like maybe what you're talking about. But 2 days on, 3 days on.
is it going excessively
have
low on
those-
one day and then going up really high, or it's not excessive?
Not excessive.
It's just
yeah. So just
I've not heard anything about the success of it. It reminds me a little bit of what athletes do, before a marathon. They're kind of trying to they cut back extensively and then eat a huge meal so that while they're exercising, they have something that can, especially men, because they don't have a lot of carbohydrate in their liver stored, so that helps them run longer. So it might, I don't know, but I've not heard about it being successful or. Might be
carb
up there.
loading?
Oh, carb loading. Yeah,
It doesn't sound like it's as high as like a
Yeah.
no.
performance runner would.
No, it sounds like this is just you go down a bit, you come up a bit, you go down a bit. I mean, it could have some short-term benefits because you are kind of, your body's funny and it's kind of tricking it that, you're not eating and you're eating and but, long-term, I don't know. I haven't seen anything about There's so many things out there, yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I would never want you to go really excessively low and then go high, but I mean, cutting down by 10 to 15, or 20 a day, that can't matter.
Can I ask you a question? Do you have a sedentary job?
Yes.
Trying to mention about the shop thing, but you're great as far as.
It is.
Yeah, they tell you to move.
I have a sedentary job, and it's terrible for making but I've got to get up 1 hour, 3-minute walk, 5-minute walk, nothing but.
Just go up a flight of stairs. I used to do that all the time at the hospital. Just go up a flight of stairs because it's bothering you and it needs to stop.
Well, and I really want Dr. Curry to buy these for the practice so we can sell them. They're under-desk bikes. They're the coolest thing in the world. For people, we have so many patients that are sedentary. And you sit on the floor and you can pedal while you work. And they're $19 up to $2,000, depending upon what you want. And they are the best things ever. And if you have one of those Fitbits on, you put your hand on your leg so you can get your leg.
You got to do that.
We put on your shoe, yeah.
There's a lot of that
But-
stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, I mean, these,
Treadmills at work.
I have suggested those for years, and patients have bought them, and it keeps you working. At least for those that work 12-hour shifts, tax people and stuff like that, at least you're moving, and it's something that'll keep some calories going, and you don't feel like you're just sitting there. So I'm gonna stay on Dr. Curry. I'm gonna get some of those and sell them out of our store.
I mean, it's got to be good for other things too. You got blood flow at the 3 o'clock hour when you're feeling like falling asleep at work. You know what I mean? That kind of gets that in. But again, it's a great reminder. To just take a break and get up. I mean, there's even research that's saying that that people that sit 30 minutes or longer have an increased risk of diabetes just from that. So and they say if you just get up and walk for 1 minute around the room, that completely changes your risk.
There's also those programs that they have, where I work, they have a rally program. And if I'm sitting at my desk, every hour on the hour, they'll tell me go for a walk. Even if I don't get up, because I guess if I don't move my keypad, if I do move my keypad, it'll give me another reminder. Go for a walk.
Did you go yet? That's great then. I mean, you might not do it every single time, but it kind of makes you think about it and then motivates you to get moving. It's really all about getting moving.
I got one of those wobble stools for my desk. It's kind of like one of the exercise balls, but it's a stool, so it's going anywhere when I get them. But it's kind of uncomfortable to sit on for a long period of time, so I get up and go for a walk because I'm tired of trying to wobble, so it helps. Don't want to sit there for an
Is
hour.
it sort of there,
What's a
is it sort of a
wobble?
stabilization, try to stabilize so it's helping you with your core? Is that what it is?
Yes, you have to sit up straight.
Okay.
And it's gonna fall over.
It's a core
Oh, I
workout.
was just seeing you before. That sounds great. Though.
It's like a ball with the arms, basically, right?
Well,
Is
I
that
got
what
it
it
at the
is?
container store, and it's round on the bottom, round on the top, and it's just like a cylinder. So
Oh.
it's like you cut the middle out of an exercise ball, So, because I had an exercise ball, and it would just go everywhere. So I had to get up and go to the printer and come back and eat all the time. So I had to chase my ball down. So I got one of the wobble stools from
That's what we do.
the container store. Yeah, that way
Look at that.
you got to keep your feet kind of planted.
Sounds like it's there for posture, but it might help
Yeah,
with
yeah.
stabilization and you get tired of sitting, so you get
You
up.
get it, and like your muscles are constantly moving, so you don't get that. You're sore and sitting. Because if you walk a lot and you sit down, you're just like your muscles are like. So it kind of stops that because you're always, yeah.
Great idea.
But it's really hard to sit on for a long period of time. You gotta get up and move around.
All right. Did everybody get a ticket? We got some things we're gonna raffle off. We need to get our items.
I think everybody should.
Okay.
Stand. After we've been talking about don't sit.
One of these boys picked over up here.
They're young men,
Yeah, well, boys and men. Man will always be a boy. I've known him for a while. This is Dr. Curry's son.
They're dealing with it.
That's Dr. Curry's son. I need something to put these in. There's something to put
You can put them in my hand.
Here, it's gonna look.
Once there's any closer.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, hot looking, take one out, Sam.
612-906.
Woo! Here we have a maintenance minder. Woo! It's really cool. This one's going to be for a month's supply of dairy vitamins. We all use vitamins, right?
Yep.
612-905.
There you go. Okay. Last one's a pretty big one. Now, before I do this one, I'll just let you know this one is a little bit higher carb product. So really only one a day that you would do is a shake. The shaker. The carbs are a little bit high. It's 15 grams of protein per serving, but there's 24 grams of carbs. So you definitely want to incorporate it as a meal type thing. Maybe do it on a day exercise.
Before you
Or could
exercise
split
would be
it
good.
up and
You can split it up. Like,
get 2 snacks in the day.
Before you exercise would be
yeah.
the best, yeah.
612-902.
Ooh, there you go. All right. We'll try to have a raffle every month. Okay, so a little bit about next month. We have Dr. Curtis Martin coming for support group next month. He is a plastic surgeon, contouring surgeon, and he gives a great presentation. I always like to tell patients too, he has pretty explicit videos or pictures before and after. So it's not recommended for any young children. Did have children come at one point, and it was kind of uncomfortable. So, but his work is beautiful. Dr. Curry has known him for quite a while. He did most of my work, all my work, which is great. And he stands by his work, and I strongly recommend coming to see him if that's something that you definitely have in the future for yourself. It's something just to kind of, even if you're not there yet, he's great to come watch and to come see his presentation, and it'll kind of give you an idea of, what kind of funds you need to start putting aside and that sort of thing. So it's even just good just to start and come see what's available. That's in June. June. I'll send out another eye contact with the date and everything for you.
Are they always on Wednesdays?
We're gonna keep them on Wednesdays right now. We've had them on Saturdays before, and the problem is that they were hit or miss. We had 10 people sign up and nobody show up. So a lot of it, this time of year with summer coming, everybody's got events going on, vacations. Now we're open to changing them. I think with Michelle on board, we're going to let her. She's going to start doing some support groups as well. So stay tuned. But right now they are on Wednesday. So and now that we're going to go live on YouTube, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But we're in 30 states now and 3 countries and more different places. So.
Yeah. Then if anyone has any suggestions for topics, Rebecca and I have been doing support groups for a long time, so we're always open for new topics. So just to keep it fresh, so to say. Please let us know.
Good. Glad it helped. Did it help? Did you hear some suggestions? And yeah, we appreciate you guys coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and come to your appointments.
Yes,
Don't
we'd love
avoid
to see
us.
ya.